Throughout the years, I've collected several different types of lamps. Some are ornamental and some are actually functional. I've used them a lot less since I've left Germany and moved to Florida, most notably because they just create a lot of heat when they're run. The ones that I'm showing now, these are your basic kerosene lamps, and these ones are more for display. They have no actual purpose. I can get as much light out of a flashlight, maybe even more so, out of a flashlight than I can out of these. And in Florida, the types of lamps that I need have shifted with requirement. So today in Florida, when I think of functional lamp, I think of something like this, a pressurized mantle lamp that runs off of white gas. Something like this can generate thousands of watts of light. This thing is really bright because nobody really thinks about it, but when it's dark and you run out of electricity, light becomes a very important thing, and flashlights don't cut it. But something like this, where 3 or 4 of these can light up the entire yard and the house, is a big deal. And these types of mantle lamps with a thoriated filament or thoriated bag is incandescent, and most people don't know that. Very much like an incandescent light bulb, it works the same way, except instead of using electricity to heat the element, it uses the white gas, which at that point has already been vaporized into a gas form from a liquid. But this video isn't about Coleman Landers. It's about something much older and something actually quite cooler. It's about my Aladdin lamp, and this goes back to the early 1900s. There is no pressurized system. This is done entirely atmospherically, and it does it quite effectively. The one you're looking at now, my particular Aladdin lamp, actually had some corruption and required a complete clean out. So I'm going to have to reassemble it and put in a new wick to demonstrate how it works. So I figure I might as well do it on video. To start off with, all we're going to need here is this burner. We're going to separate these pieces and only work with what's actually going to be inserted into this burner at the time. Let's do that now. It's going to be this. We're going to take our wick and this wick holder. The wick seats in this area, and if there's any garbage in here, then it'll get stuck. It'll get caught, and when you try and adjust it, turn the wick up and down, it'll simply bind and it won't work at all. So that had to be cleaned out. I had to make a device with sandpaper that was able to smooth that out and get that back to a nice shine in there. So it worked out pretty good. Before I put the wick in, here's a quick view of the mechanism I just quickly inserted. We can see that it moves the wick up and down. This is not the order of operation, but just to make sure that nothing's binding. So that's just fine. So I'll take the paper tabs here and push them through so that I'm able to retrieve them on the other side. This was not so easy to accomplish. There's not a lot of room to work, so I spared everybody this. But basically, this is what it looks like with the bottom of the wick through these slots here and the wick sitting up top. It's obviously going to come around the circle here, but the wick holder is going to have to be inserted around that clip as well. So at this point, I'm supposed to fit the carrier to the wick itself. So I'll snap that on. Seems to fit okay. And I'm just going to hold it just like that. Now we're going to try and bring this whole assembly down till it engages in that cog. I think I just feel it right at the end. There it goes. Right there. And there it is. So it looks like we have a wick inserted. Now I'm going to start some of this assembly, so I'm going to place this piece back. I don't know all of the terminology, so I'm not going to pretend that I do. This piece locks on like this. I'll tell you what we'll do. We might as well fill this up with some kerosene since the wick is going to have to soak for a while. I imagine if the wick is just a little bit too long, it's going to burn off anyway and become the correct size. In the interest of safety, I ended up taking a razor blade to the end of the wick to shorten it, just to get it flush with the end of the brass at the lowest possible setting. I wanted to make sure that when I turn this lamp on, I'll be able to shut it off. If the wick is too long, there'll be no possible way to extinguish this, and that's not good. Here's what the top of the wick looks like now with this brass piece removed. Everything is nice and flush now, so it'll be possible to actually shut off the lamp once I turn it on. So I think this is a lot better. We're going to go with this. Another thing is we're looking for this like perfect halo, and the wick has to be even. Obviously, it's going to be a bit rough cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and light this up. I'm going to give it just a little bit, see if it gets going, and it is going. We do see we're getting a flame, but it is going to take a second for it to burn down, so we don't have these little spikes here. And basically, what I'm doing right now is I just want to get it just a low heat, just to be able to get the top of the wick burning so it burns evenly. That's all I'm doing right now. I'm not putting anything on top of this. Going for an even round flame, nothing more. I had to come back to working on the wick again to even it up to get that blue halo that I was talking about, and I think I did a good job of taking the razor blade again and just getting the wick extremely flat so that I get a nice round blue halo as seen here in the video. This is what we're going for. If you can start with an even flame in the lowest possible setting, you're not going to get an even flame as it increases, because the defects in the wick become exponentially different as the wick gets higher. So now we'll try just turning it up a bit to see if things have stabilized now that I've made those adjustments. So we're going to just slowly bring it up just a bit. I know it's going to get a little funky without the top on, but yeah, we can see it's much more round now. It's not jittery and, well, when I move my hand, yes, but things are looking better. So we're gonna put the mantle back on and see what happens. Again, we're gonna have to give it a couple of minutes to warm up the glass and the surrounding metal. I'm seeing a much more evenly rounded flame this time. I'm gonna start turning it up just a bit. See what we get. Just starting to get some incandescence now. I can't run the lamp full tilt because then I can't point the camera at it. The camera will show nothing as it tries to adjust for the bright light. And right now I'm also finding that as the lamp heats up, the characteristics are still changing. I'm still making adjustments to the height of the wick. And this is something that I often find myself doing with these lamps. It's worth pointing out again that this thing is throwing a tremendous amount of heat. It is going down to freezing today here in Central Florida. It's a couple of times a year that it actually does so, which is one of the reasons why I chose this particular weekend to do this video about the Aladdin lamp, because we probably will actually have the heater turning on tonight. Other than that, I generally don't turn these lamps on anymore because I have no reason to, other than this once or twice a year where I'll just fire them up on the coldest night of the year, and that's pretty much it. So I'm glad I was able to make this video with the wick replacement and the running the Aladdin lamp. Thanks for watching.